Thanks. All right, so I've quoted from the Mauldin Economics newsletter in the past, and as usual, I'll link to this particular one in the episode notes. This one was written by Patrick Watson, and the argument made in this article is that automation is there are three fundamental skills that we can learn to help maintain job stability and relevancy in an ever-changing economic climate with the advent of automation and artificial intelligence. I mean, it's no secret that, the more things automate, the less of those particular types of opportunities or jobs that get automated are available, right? They're in diametrically opposed from each other. It doesn't mean that 10 jobs turn to 0, but it means that 10 jobs will turn to 2 or 3. I see it all the time in my line of work, in my 9 to 5. And, just historically, before you used to have a lot more mail couriers because that's the only way to get documentation from point A to point B. Then with the advent of fax machines, that dwindled down. And then when with the advent of the internet and email, fax machines got dwindled down and automated out of the that specific marketplace. So I thought this article made an interesting argument, and the three fundamental things are philosophy, math, and foreign languages. And I'm going to give you an excerpt from each of those three sections here. The first one is from Mark Cuban, which was at a South by Southwest conference, and Patrick Watson saw him there, and he was part of a panel. And I'm going to quote what Patrick Watson quoted from the South by Southwest conference when the moderator asked Mark Cuban what subjects young people should study to gain an advantage in the future. And the question was asked because people lean toward, there's going to be computers in the future. Computers are going to be everywhere. Computers in the marketplace. The safest job you can get is coding and, learning pretty much the language of computers. But this is like a different approach to that same quote unquote problem. Anyway, Mark Cuban's response to that was that we're going through the process where software will automate software. Automation will automate automation. I would not want to be a CPA right now. I would not want to be an accountant right now. I would rather be a philosophy major. Knowing how to critically think and assess them from a global perspective, I think, is going to be more valuable than what we see as exciting careers today, which might be programming or CPA or those types of things. Then in the article, Patrick Watson goes on to speak about some well-known philosophy majors to kind of take like the stench off of, philosophy majors. Like, what the fuck are they going to do as a job? What are they going to become, philosophy professors or something? He mentioned Carl Icahn, who was a philosophy major. Carl Icahn, for those of you that don't know, is a Wall Street investor. And he is most notably known for taking over a hostile takeover of TWA, the airline. He's been involved in Time Warner. He's owned casinos. He's worth like $16 billion. Motorola, a bunch of companies. PayPal. He's a huge stakeholder in Lyft, the ride-sharing company. Like the other company that's not Uber. And by owning a stake in it, it's $100 million stake. Who else? He mentioned Peter Thiel is also was also a philosophy major, and he, most notably known for companies like PayPal, which he was either an investor or co-founder of with Elon Musk. And he was a VC, a venture capitalist investor with Facebook. George Soros, which is worth 18 billion and known to be one of the most successful investors, was a philosophy major as well. The former CEO of HP, Carlo Fiorina. Another area to focus in would be math, which may sound kind of obvious, but math, he breaks it down as math teaches logical reasoning and attention to detail, and it helps you think under pressure. Finding that one possible solution can be hard, but doing it will increase your mental endurance. He goes on to say that math is about structure, developing principles that hold true even if you change the components. And that, for example, is helpful in economic analysis. And he goes on to say that, brushing up on your math skills can help in, regardless of your age, etc. And he points to the Khan Academy, which was cool to see here because completely unrelated. I've been using Khan Academy, their website and their app for years. I forget how I stumbled upon it. I think through a TED Talk, actually. And it's dope. And there's like a slew of different topics, and from understanding something like a basic algebra to geometry questions to advanced calculus to just understanding specific topics like how does compound interest work. And there's other subjects as well that isn't just math. There's like science topics and stuff like that, and it's really cool, intuitive videos. And I forget his first name, but something Khan started it, and it gained momentum. He started it as, if I'm not mistaken, trying to help his niece work out math problems. So he started doing like these YouTube videos for her, and it just like snowballed, and he got like $1 million investments, years down the line, and now it's like blown up to be this cool thing. So it was just cool to see it like referenced there. Then the last area they said would be fundamentally helpful in this changing economic climate was learning language skills, learning a different language. And he goes on to say that math is the language of technology, and computers, quote unquote, think in ones and zeros, but human languages count too. He writes that learning about another language helps you understand your own language better. And since languages shape how we think, you'll also gain insight into the mentality of other languages' native speakers. He says that studying other languages makes your thinking more flexible and widens the opportunities that you can seize. And I've heard that like similar arguments to, or positives to, learning different languages, where you're literally changing, because like when you learn anything, you're literally changing the structure of like the neural pathways in your brain. Like you're learning new things, you're like tapping into shit that you didn't use before. It's like using a muscle that, or lifting, doing an exercise that you've never done before. You start using muscles that you haven't readily used before, and you start strengthening them. I've heard similar references like that when it comes to learning new anything, specifically languages, like different languages, and that the implications of which can go way beyond, being able to read a menu in a different country or something like that. And the last thing I'll say about this article, that before I segue into another article that it references, that I found really interesting, is that he says that Chinese, for instance, doesn't use verb tense to denote past, present, and future. It's no coincidence that many Chinese-speaking people conceive of time quite differently from English speakers. Knowing this helps explain some things. And in that article, he hyperlinks to another article about the concept of time in Chinese culture, which I just found like interesting. As you know, the novel that I'm working on has to do with like time travel, and one of my favorite movies is Back to the Future, and just like it piqued my interest. And it kind of sort of played into my the Midday Monday Boost letter, which you can subscribe to for free at spuntoday.com/subscribe. In it, I referenced a quote from Claire Cook, which was the featured quote of the week on Monday, January 29th, 2018. And it said, quote, if plan A doesn't work, the alphabet has 25 more letters. 204 if you're in Japan. And that like blew my mind because I definitely get I know I'm going off on a quick tangent here, but that like I definitely get the analogy of especially for me because I'm very regimented and this is the plan. I wanted to work out to a T and I follow step by step by step. And I get the analogy of, if plan A doesn't work, there's 25 more letters to the alphabet. Don't have a meltdown and just go to plan B and plan C and so forth. And that analogy it makes you, or makes me at least, think, all right, it's not the end of the world. You can give it another whirl. And then when Claire Cook adds the 204 letters of the alphabet in the Japanese alphabet, when she adds like that perspective to the same concept, it's like, it just blew my mind. It was like, holy shit, in a weird kind of way that just resonated with me. That was pretty cool. So I had that floating somewhere in my mind because I recently used it in my newsletter. And then this reference of the concept of time being different in the Chinese language versus the English language, I just found super, super interesting. And basically in the other article, it says that in Japanese culture, there's two concepts of time: the clock time and the timeless time. And someone by the name of Mitch Albom in The Timekeeper quotes his explanation of the clock time, which was, quote, "Try to imagine a life without timekeeping. You probably can't. You know the month, the year, the day of the week. There's a clock on your wall or dashboard of your car. You have a schedule, a calendar, a time for dinner, or a movie. Man alone measures time. Man alone chimes the hour. And because of this, man alone suffers a paralyzing fear that no other creature endures, a fear of time running out." And then it goes on to speak to the timeless time, which is extremely focused on one study or work that one forgets to eat, enjoys oneself so much that one forgets about all the worries, and not even aware of the becoming of old age. And I just found that pretty interesting. And that article is linked within the Mauldin Economics article, but I'll link to it separately as well in the episode notes in case you guys are interested to check it out. There's like a little video in there which I didn't see. I just read the article. But it might be interesting for you guys to check out. It's from Chelsea Bubbly. Chels Teaches Chinese.